does Durant make Houston a legit title contender?
He absolutely makes them a title contender because the team I saw this year, well coached from Ime, from the young core that they have, when I watched them, they're very disciplined. They play great defense. They needed a star there. Now, I don't know how much KD has left in the tank to carry this young Rockets team, but he's going to certainly have a lot of help. And he can be a guy down the stretch that you can go to. They ended up number 2 in the West. And you add a KD to that while taking away Jalen Green and of course, Dillon Brooks, who was, a heartbeat to their team. I got to believe he does. I think they're still going to maintain their depth. They have Junior over there coming off, Jabari Jr. coming off their bench, or may start. You still have Aquaman. He's still there.
Steven
Adams. You still got him. And a couple other young pieces. So, as far as when I look at the temperature in the West, they're up there they're up in the mix. They're going to be in my top 4, I believe.
Yeah, at first I had to think about it because when we talked about it, I originally went away from it saying, no, I don't think so. Mm-hmm. But then as I started thinking about it over the last hour or so, it feels like he could make him a contender because they swapped out Dillon Brooks and then the young Jalen Green. KD is an upgrade from that, even if you combine them two together. That's a major upgrade. Here's a dude, no matter what age he is, he's still dropping 26 on your head, night in and night out. His consistency is the key point for them. Now, when you start talking about, is he a voice leader guy type? That's not who he is. So they got to try to figure out where do they get that from? Does it come from Ime and the bench? Because that's just not who he is as a player. He just wants to play basketball and help his team try to win. But like Paul said, they got players still. They're young. They got some juice. They ready to go. I just think that in terms of being one of them real strong contenders, I don't know that they're going to be that strong, but I think they could be if he just hits on all cylinders and erase that Brooklyn stuff, erase that Phoenix stuff out of his mind and get with Ime, somebody who coached him at Brooklyn, and he has a relationship with it and an understanding. They could wind up shocking all of us and find themselves in a position that many of us probably think they wouldn't be in.
The leadership's going to come from Fred VanVleet, who has the ability to say to KD, I saw you in the finals and took one from you, so I know how to get this done as well as you do. I've got a ring to my name, and that's the role that he served with the Rockets. But no, I don't think that he makes them a title contender. He makes them better for sure. But to say that they were the second best team in the West, they had the second best record. They were 52 wins. They were 16 games behind Oklahoma City, and they were only 4 games ahead of the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies. So it's not like they were a dominant team in the regular season in the way we look at Oklahoma City or even Cleveland over in the Eastern Conference. He's exactly what they need as far as a go-to, and I would say that he makes them a more dangerous playoff team. But regular season, you lose 2 guys like Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks, who were very good regular season players. They just got exposed in the postseason. So does he make them better? Yes. Can he get them further in the postseason? Yes. Are they going to be the second best team in the Western Conference and the biggest threat to Oklahoma City? I would still give that to the Denver Nuggets. And that's actually the team, to me, that was the ideal team for him to go to. If he's dictating where he's going to go, he'd be closer to a ring going to the Nuggets than he would have to Houston.
See, I think he does make them a legit title contender because as much as we think the West is harder than the East, and I do think that the West is deeper than the East,
for sure.
There's been a different champion for 7 straight years in the NBA. So I don't even want to start talking about dynasties or repeats or any of that stuff. It's just, it doesn't happen anymore.
Yep. Hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened in 7 years. That's a pretty legitimate amount of time. So the Thunder have a lot to prove if we're talking about what they're going to do next. Not taking they should enjoy every second of this NBA championship. But when we're talking about what the Rockets can do and if they're a contender, I think they're absolutely a contender. I know that they weren't necessarily the second best team in the West, but who's who's truly scary? Take OKC, the current champions, out of it. Who's truly scary in the West right now? Who makes you nervous? Lakers?
No.
Denver?
Denver,
Yeah.
no. Denver needs some help. They need
a little bit of help.
They need to get their infrastructure together.
All right, but are we comparing them to the Houston Rockets? Like,
I don't
who do you
think-
favor between those two?
I'm looking at the matchups. I'm taking the Rockets over Denver right now. In the matchups, when I look at the matchups, listen, you got an up-and-coming star in Amen Thompson. He could be an all-star as early as next year. Sengun is already an all-star. Durant is still an all-star. That's 3 all-stars right there. With Van Vliet, the ultimate role player. And then you got Jabari Jr. To me, he got star potential. He got star potential. And then they got the young backup point guard from Kentucky. I forget his name. What's his name?
Aaron Holiday or
No.
Kentucky, the draft pick. They draft pick.
right there.
I can't even see.
Shepard.
Shepard. Yeah,
Reed Shepard.
Him.
Yeah.
And then they have
He didn't play it that much.
no,
this
but
year.
he's going to play next year.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, but he's a
They
talent.
have a solid roster
Yeah,
and
they
solid
do.
role
They
players,
do.
and they have a good coach. And not that they ended up being the second best team in the West when we got to the postseason, but they did have a great regular season and added someone who we already know what Kevin Durant is. So I'm more saying if we're talking about who the contenders are in the West, because I think there's just there's a tiny little bit of propaganda being fed out there about the Western Conference. And then when we really look, Minnesota overall was kind of disappointing when we're talking about at least what happened in the Western Conference Finals.
They still could go. They
could.
got to get a couple pieces too.
They could.
I think they
But everything that we're talking about here
get a
outside of OKC, because OKC just won the championship and had an all-time great season, so let's just take them out of it. Everyone else in the West is a could, maybe, needs a piece, little unsure, maybe needs to adjust here. Are we positive they have the right coach? So if we're talking about whether the KD makes the Rockets a legit title contender, if we're just focusing on what they can do in the Western Conference, I think he absolutely does.
If we're saying there's 6 or 7 title contenders in the Western Conference,
I think there are, because there's not that many that. Are you going to put your mortgage on anybody other than OKC right now in the West?
No, and maybe not OKC. No, I think it's wide open. I think this is my concern: is 52-win team, take out 2 pieces, and perhaps most important, KD couldn't move the needle with Phoenix. KD couldn't even get them to the playoffs or the play-in.
But maybe that
in Phoenix.
that type of 3-headed monster doesn't work for him.
Okay, but still, you're KD. If you're everything we're saying Kevin Durant is, and capable of being, and the numbers that he had just didn't do anything. Like I've seen great players take mid-teams and at least get to the playoffs. Kevin Garnett did it year after year after year.
There's no question
Minnesota.
that last season was a disappointment. And I think the Suns overall very much learned their lesson that that's not the way that you can build a winning team in this NBA. But what are the spaces that Kevin Durant has thrived in the most?
Teams with good culture, established leadership, good coaching. Yeah. I'm with you.
I think Houston has that.
I can see it. I can see it as the model. I guess when I think of title contender, I think of like 4 or 5 teams in the entire league that I put in that category. It's hard for me at this stage. If we want to look at, there's 5 or 6 potential teams in the Western Conference, then I'm more open to
Who
saying
you think in the Western
Houston is one of
Conference
those.
right now? So OKC, Minnesota,
Denver, OKC, Minnesota.
That's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. Everybody else I've got a bigger question mark with. It's been like, I don't know what the Warriors are going to turn Jonathan Kuminga in, assuming that they're going to move him.
Right.
If they can get somebody who can contribute, and they've got Jimmy Butler from the beginning of the year, staying healthy,
Clippers, no.
they've got to make some changes. They need a point guard, you know.
Harden is the point guard.
He's up though, right?
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, I think he's up.
I just think the better way to say it is the West is wide open.
Yeah, the West is wide open.
So if that's the case, then I think the Rockets are in there.
Rockets match their youth and athleticism. Coaching is there.
They will get better.
They're going to be better. I truly believe they will be better.
So who won the KD trade, the Rockets or Suns, Paul?
I think if you're saying short term, the Rockets definitely won because this puts them in contention for the next couple years, I believe. And sometimes your window of opportunity is only open for 3-4 years. You know, we're not all fortunate to have windows of opportunity last as long as the Golden State Warriors or the San Antonio Spurs. You know, we watched the Miami Heat. Their window was 4 years. I can see that happening with Rockets to where they have a 4-year window. Ours was 4 years. When we got together, we said, guys, our window's 4 years. So whatever we can do in that, and you got to be good and you got to be lucky. You got to stay away from the injury bug. So short term, it's the Rockets, but long term, I feel like Phoenix can build some pieces around Jalen Green, the draft pick. I also would probably trade Booker and go young all the way since he's in his prime and probably not going to win as projected. See if I can get another few pieces for Booker. So long term, it'll be Phoenix.
Yeah, it's Phoenix long term and short, 2-year window in Houston. This is why they did that. They want to win right now. They're not thinking 4 years from now. You know, because 4 years from now, KD will be damn near 40 years old. So, or maybe he will. What is he, 37 now?
He'll be 37.
Yeah,
he'll be 37 this season.
So he'll be into getting close and into the 40-year. No, not at all. So in all, I think Phoenix wins because they get young. They got a couple picks, in the second-round picks or whatever. They may be able to package them up and find something else. But I kind of agree with Paul. Maybe they look to get even younger if somebody want to grab Booker and bring him along and give him something for him in terms of value. But it's definitely long-term is Phoenix because it's a short-term situation in Houston.
I think it's to be determined. I'd lean Rockets in the immediate because he automatically makes them better.
Yeah, that's
right?
why they did it.
Did they have to assure him of an extension, and what's that extension look like?
I need all mine.
That's the price on the back.
Yeah, but I need all mine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's a price. That's a price depending on KD staying healthy that may bite you on the backside. And then the other part is with Phoenix is what are you turning Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks into?
Yeah, exactly. Rick, continue to go.
Seriously?
Continue to go.
Seriously. No, you got to turn. I don't expect that Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green were acquired to be part of the team. I feel like I'm having two conversations here.
Oh my!
I think it's too soon to tell. It'll depend on what I think Jalen Green ends up being. Obviously, KD is going to be 37 this season, so this is a small window for the Rockets to take advantage of, and I think that's good because, as we're saying, there's been a new champion every single year for the last 7 years in the NBA. This idea that you're automatically, just because you won, going to repeat or get back to the finals or build on some sort of dynasty, it's really difficult to do. And because of that, I think there's a lot more parity and it's wide open for everyone. Health obviously plays a huge factor. There's a lot of teams that we expected to be competing at a high level that next year will not be doing that because of major injuries.
Yeah.
And that's across the board. So I think there's a lot that they can do if they do end up staying healthy, but it's too soon in totality. Maybe in 3 years we'll end up knowing who actually won the trade.
Paul, how do you see Alperen Sengun and KD playing together? Because I feel like they play two different rhythms.
Well, I like KD with Sengun in a half-court setting. See, they're going to be a great transition team because they have athletes on the perimeter, and they're going to be a great half-court team. I think they're going to work well together. I mean, they probably won't be putting pick and rolls too much, but playing off on one another, dribble handoffs, things of that nature, getting switches, taking advantage of mismatches, that'll be a great tandem.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.